If you are coming from Adobe Premiere Pro, keyframing and animating clips in DaVinci Resolve 16 is very different and can be very confusing if you don't know what you're doing. So in this tutorial, we're going to do a really quick start guide on how to keyframe and animate in DaVinci Resolve and the basic mechanics of that. So let's get started. So I have a basic project already set up here, and it just has a basic stock footage on the timeline, and we are all set up and ready to go. So the first thing you should know about DaVinci Resolve 16, as far as I know, I haven't found any other panel, there is no keyframe panel or special effects panel like there is in Premiere. So all keyframing is actually done in the timeline. There's no separate keyframe viewer that you use to animate these things. So if you actually want to get started to keyframe something, you want to click on your clip in the timeline and open up the inspector right here. You just click this tab and it'll open and close the inspector. The inspector will pull up all the attributes of the selected clip. So all these attributes are pretty self-explanatory. You have transform and cropping and very simple things like that. So you just input the numbers to change them. Now, if you want to actually keyframe something, you begin by dragging the timeline to wherever you want to add that keyframe, and these are all your keyframe buttons right here. So let's start by animating the rotation angle of this clip. So move your playhead to wherever you want the keyframe to start on your clip, and then simply add a keyframe at that point. You just click the button next to the attribute. Then what you can also do is actually click this keyframe as well, and it will key everything in the transforms. And you can do that in cropping, and it selects all of them, or you can deselect all of them. So for right now, we're just going to do the rotation. So with rotation keyframe there, simply move the playhead forward a little bit, and we will rotate this 90 degrees or 360. And as you can see, it already adds a keyframe here. So if you want to go back and forth between keyframes, you'll notice that these arrows appear. So if you click this arrow, it goes to the previous keyframe. If you click the other arrow, it goes to the next keyframe. So that's how you can quickly go back and forth between keyframes. So if we were to actually play this right now, you would see it does a full 360 spin. Now, what if you want to edit these keyframes further? Like I said, it doesn't have an actual keyframe panel like Premiere Pro does. So if you want to edit these further, I'm going to go ahead and give us a little bit more room for the sake of the tutorial. If you want to actually edit the keyframes, you can click these two buttons right here. These will only appear if you have a keyframe in the inspector made. So if I don't have these buttons won't appear. Now, if you click this one, it will simply bring up simple keyframes in a row. So if I want to make my spin slower, you can simply separate the two keyframes and go ahead and see how slow it spins now. You can play it again. Slower. If you want to bring it closer, obviously it'll spin faster. You can also real quickly jump between the keyframes once again with these arrows, and then if you wanted to delete one, you just click the button right there. But I'm going to undo that. Let's say you have multiple attributes you need to animate, however. So right now it's just showing transform. What if we have zoom animated as well? So real quick, I can go ahead and zoom right there. Now, what about these? If you click this little arrow here, it will expand the group. And now you can see you have your zoom attributes and your rotation angle separately that you can now mess with. Now, what if you wanted to actually get into the linear graphs of the keyframes? Now, that's when you would click this one. You can actually have both of these expanded at a time. Let me open this up more. Now, when you click the graphs, it will expand a mini graph viewer in the timeline, which is pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and close the other keyframes out here. So you can select which keyframes you are viewing right here. You just click this drop-down menu and select which ones you want to see. Right now, I will collapse everything, and I will just show the rotation, if I can find it. Rotation angle, there we go. So as you can see, here's our rotation. You can move these points around. So moving up and down changes the actual value, and then moving left and right changes the time at which it starts. So right now we can make it go really fast once again, or we can slow it down. However, what if you want to just move one attribute? Because right now it's really hard to move it without sliding it up and down. What if I just want to slide it left and right? So before you select it, hold down Shift, and that will lock it in whatever axis you start dragging it in. So I can drag it up and down and it will not budge. Or I can go left and right and it will not budge. So that makes it really easy to animate. So now if you go ahead and see the beautiful animations we have created, it's coming out pretty good. Once again, you can skip between your keyframes right here and turn your keyframes on and off, or delete them, and then once again, you have your tangent lines right here. So right here, you can see we have a quick ease in, but we can change that with all these different tangent lines. However, it's not letting me change right now. So you have linear and your basic other choices. I'm not extremely familiar with the tangents here, but if you want to add a little bounce, I don't know what that was, but it was a thing. So that is about it with keyframes. If at any point you want to reset everything, you can just click the reset button. I believe I already said that. So I hope that helped a lot. So that's about it with keyframing. Let's go ahead and play our glorious animation. Perfection. So I really hope you liked this video and you found it helpful. I apologize if there were any flaws or anything in the video. Please go ahead and share it if you did find it helpful. And go ahead and subscribe as well, because that's awesome. And thank you very much. And I hope this was helpful. And good luck getting into DaVinci Resolve.